Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today, or I should say tonight, we're going to be looking at Zomoid Illustories, a Ray Zone production. This is an amazingly odd little anthology from 1989, part of the 3D Zone's ongoing line of random one-shots. Of course, Ray Zone, the master of 3D, probably the best 3D artist in the history of comics. He had a whole line of 3D comics, but then sometimes he would just edit just a comic with no 3D. And the weird thing is, like, Ray Zone, obviously, he'll always be known for his amazing contributions to 3D technology and his celebration of the art form and kind of promoting it. But what people don't realize is Ray Zone was an amazing editor. He had such good taste. The comics that he would choose to turn into 3D for his series, and even things like this, which don't even have 3D. He's just, like his 3D comics, he would be like Basil Wolverton and just the best comics ever made. He would, just all these weird public domain things, all of them are pretty damn interesting. And this is no different, even though it's not in 3D. But he's a really good editor, and I wish he had a chance to put out more comics, because everything he put out was just like, it was almost like that Art Out of Time book we looked at, where it's like, what? Who's this guy? He'd find some weird 50s sci-fi comic that was, nobody really knows about, and it would be some amazing weird thing. So this is very different than that. This is, Ray Zone had a gallery, I believe in LA, and he had this thing, these Zomoid Illustories, where he'd make little mini comics and just kind of, I think, sell them or give them away at his gallery openings. He got a lot of famous cartoonists to contribute, and some of them used pseudonyms. And I think he encouraged them to just draw like from their id. Just, don't worry, almost like those 24-hour comics that like guys like Scott McCloud used to do, and Steve Bissett, where it's just like, just go crazy. And we start off here with a Carol Tyler cover. Kind of disappointing that this is just a blow up of a panel in the comic. I wish they had a cool cover, a new piece of art. But I like this logo. This is by Carol Tyler. It's a good logo. We have a little introduction, a brief history of Zomo Art Space. That was the name of his gallery. And it sounded like a fun place. They were one of the first galleries to show Robert Williams, his zombie mystery paintings. I believe the first round of them. So it sounds like a really cool, hip little gallery at the time in the 80s. And luckily we have a little artifact from that. So we start off with Zomoid Illustories, Carol Tyler. LA Saturday night. She signs it La Puta. I guess she was ashamed of this comic or something. It's a little, you can tell already, it doesn't look like Carol Tyler. I mean, kinda, very loosely. But it looks like Carol Tyler just like dashing it off, just letting her, just expressing as quickly as she can, drawing and writing. And she's a great cartoonist, so even though it's all quick and sloppy, it still looks pretty good. I love this thing of her puking on her comics page that she's working on. This is an auto-bio tale. She still thinks she can salvage it. She's like, oh, maybe I could spray it and they won't notice that I puked on this comic page before I turn it in. So she goes to her fridge. She's hungry after puking up. And she sees a tab of acid in her fridge that she forgot about, and she takes it. Her friend comes by and says, come on, let's go party. And they go out into the night. This is obviously the cover image. Just really just bizarre, like montage scene. So they end up at this one party, and they meet this couple. I like how this, it's a sign of the times. Boy looks like Grace Jones. Girl looks like Boy George. I remember in the 80s seeing girls who dressed like Boy George. That was a thing. I never saw a man as pretty as Grace Jones or trying to look like her. So I guess they have a destination party they're trying to get to, this Hawaiian party. And it's in some fancy mansion. And this dude is dressed up as Annette Funicello. And then the cops raid the party. And everyone splits. So, I mean, not much of a story. It just sounds like, I wouldn't be surprised if Carol Tyler took a hit of acid before she drew this. Just for kicks. I did want to mention, guys, I forgot to mention this. Thank you guys for your nice comments. Concerned about my health. It turns out maybe I had botulism. I don't know. But I don't think botulism is ever this mild. I thought it killed you. But I did have my face seize up. That's why I sounded so funny last episode. It's pretty much gone. And so I don't know what it was. Maybe there's a very mild form of botulism. I've never heard of anyone getting botulism in my life. But as soon as my manager looked it up on the internet, my symptoms, she said, Greg, it might be botulism. And then I looked on my comments at lunchtime, and the first comment I read was from Archibald Gernsback, and he said, you better be careful. That sounds like botulism to me. So I was like, holy shit. So I'm better, as you can tell by my voice. Though I do have the windows open again, guys. It's 99 degrees here in Portland. It was a nasty day. I'm glad I survived. It's still fucking hot, and it's like 11 o'clock. Okay, so now we have Zomoid. A Zomoid you can color yourself. This is by Brian James Rydell. And obviously doing this Sanrio thing. So we see this cute little kitty character. He's heading uptown to see if there's any action. He sees this sex worker. How about jumping my bones, sweet meat? And then she says, cost you 50. And he says, sorry, all I got is this 44 Magnum. And he shoots her in the head. The police come, and he ends up in jail. So I think there was this almost editorial command, just like, guys, just draw the shit you've always wanted to draw, the nastiest thing from your id. Next, we have Jim Shaw. This is called Deadlines. Obviously, a Harvey Kurtzman EC kind of homage here with the format. So we see this guy as a graphic designer. Well, working at a special effects house, I guess. And someone runs in and says, President Pruneface just signed a bill. Seems all work will now be done on deadlines. No more overtime and holiday pay. And these kind of graphic artists are like, oh, now everyone's going to be like us. And this bill is called the Work for Fun bill. And now we see President Pruneface. Pretty obvious. It's supposed to be Ronald Reagan. They pour caffeine in the water supply so everyone will work harder. And we see these guys working away. There's all this propaganda on TV saying how it's such a great idea. And so President Pruneface even legalizes cocaine to get people to work even harder. And he even encourages all Americans to join a good American church so they can become inundated with a Protestant work ethic. This guy's an interesting style. I probably have seen Jim Shaw in some anthology. I can't remember who this guy is. But it's kind of all over the place. Like, this is obviously Chester Gould kind of homage. But like this guy, the cartooning here, and then this weird cartooning. This guy's face. So we see this one worker. And he moves to someplace down south, but there's no unions there. And it turns out he's the father of that special effects guy we saw on the first page. He says, I wonder how my son's doing in LA. And then he keels over, dead. Some guy comes out and says, ship him off to LA for reprocessing. And it's almost like they zombify him. They sew up his mouth. They put a clock in his chest. And basically turn him into a worker zombie. Who they make better workers. No strikes. No overeducated troublemakers. At least they're happy now. It seems like that's the way we're heading. I really like this one pager by Dennis Worden, Zomoid Illustories. I don't know why I like it. It's very simple, but kind of nice drawing. I don't like this one at all. The glitch. This guy's name is Random. He doesn't even have a good pen name. And I just really don't like this video generated art. Remember, this is like mid to late 80s, so this is some pretty primitive stuff. Next, we have Gary Panter just doing Zomoid. And this is just Gary Panter, it's just scribbles. But it's not. This is the weird thing, like, let's say if I was an editor of a comic magazine, I said, hey, give me a 4-page story to some artist, and they turn this in, I'd be like, fuck you. Give me another one. You jerked off over the whole page. But I don't know, it's, when Gary Panter does it, it's somehow pleasing to the eye. I'm not an abstract art guy. I'd much rather, I think Frank Frazetta's worth 50,000 or 50 Jackson Pollocks. But every now and then I do see some abstract art that almost like just something in nature, it's pleasing to the eye. I don't really respect it. It's not like, wow, that's great art. Like, but every now and then I look at a Jackson Pollock, it's like, oh, those colors are pleasing. It looks kind of cool in the background. You know, it's like wallpaper. It's kind of neat looking. But that's the thing. It's like, I remember I lived with this woman, and her and her friends would have craft night, and some nights they'd paint. And, you know, the little paper, cardboard they used for a palette to mix the colors? I would collect them when they were done. I mean, no thought went into them. They were artless, but they were beautiful, some of them. Just the swirls of color, and I still own some of them. I really like them. But it's not like I'm like, wow, they're great artists. It's just happenstance. That's when I see abstract art, I'm just like, yeah, you lucked out. It's pleasing to the eye, but it's not like I'm like, wow. I do like Gary Panter a lot, but this is just crazy. And I gotta say, I like it. I shouldn't. It's just some strange dialogue. Blood gushes from the giant's head. Those faces zoomed off so fast you couldn't even see them. Just craziness. But it does obviously, well, I said obviously, sorry. I meant to say, to me, it does have this crazy vitality. I can almost see him going crazy with his hand. It has this movement to it. But I'm not even sure what I'm looking at for the most part. And then Jimbo shows up. It's kind of hard to see, but there's our pal Jimbo. And the last line is llamas in the Himalayas. Just very odd. Next, the next Zomoid we have is Eat Shit or Die by Peter Bagge and J.R. Williams. And I have a feeling this was written by Peter Bagge and drawn by J.R. Williams. I don't really see Peter Bagge in the art. Nice little title page here, as if it's the cover of a comic. So the narrator is the scientist, and recently an employee at the institute there has been fired for disposing radioactive waste by flushing them down a toilet. And so now these like things are growing in the toilet, these tentacles, some kind of monster. This guy gets pulled down into the toilet by these tentacles, and he's pulled through the pipes that no man was ever meant to be pulled through. He felt his body changing shape. The pain was excruciating. It reminds me of that Junji Ito story where the people have their little, in that mountain cliff, they have holes the size of certain people. And as you continue to move your way through, it warps your body because the shape gets more and more elongated. Finally, he comes out in a hideous, foul-smelling place. He thought he was in hell. And then he sees Dr. Phelps, long thought dead. And then right in front of him, he chops his own penis off and eats it before the scientist's eyes, our narrator's eyes. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this horrible monster appears, even though he's quite funny. He's a pretty funny monster. Sorry about that, guys. Someone needs a muffler. It pounced on Dr. Phelps and ripped him to shreds. And then another monster, 10 times more hideous and horrifying, spotted our narrator. It cornered him. And then the monster started using evil x-rays that twisted and contorted him to even worse proportions. The pain was beyond endurance. This went on for weeks on end. Finally, the monster got bored and went to sleep. He tried to find a hiding spot. He found a cave big enough for him to fit into, but too small for the monster. And so he was safe, but pretty soon he realized, I'm gonna die of starvation. And, but he was so terrified he didn't want to go outside and try to find food. So he started eating his own shit. Sometimes he'd regurgitate the feces, and then he would eat the vomit. So here he is. Who knows how long he's been there? He's in this cave. I no longer want to live, yet I fear death. I'm in horrible, unceasing pain, yet much greater pain awaits me outside this cave. What am I to do? Dear God, help me. This is like, oh, and it looks like he's chopped off his own penis. It's like kind of a goofy, funny strip, but it's also like really horrifying, like existentially horrifying. Because I think people live like this, where like, I don't like the state of existence, but I'm scared to do anything else because it might be worse. Next, we have Wayne Honath, and this is Pete Patterson's 7 Deadly Sins. We see lust. This guy's watching Hee Haw. I remember that. Even as a little kid, Hee Haw was never funny. Even when you're 7, you're like, these jokes suck. These are corny jokes. But they had these really hot girls in the cornfield. Just these really pretty country girls. Sloth. And we see Pete with his pal. He says, hey, do you mind grabbing the remote and flipping the channel? I want to watch Chips. And the guy says, oh, my hands are kind of full. Do you think you could? Then we see anger. And Pete gets really mad at his friend for not changing the channel. So the guy does. Then we see pride. And now Pete's very proud of himself for making his friend do whatever he, commanding him around. Covetousness. And Pete is annoyed that his snack box seems lighter than his friend's. Gluttony. He eats all of his friend's snacks before he gets back from the bathroom. And then envy. And he's watching Erica Estrada on Chips, saying basically, oh, I could be big and muscular too if I didn't have to work a real job. Who has time to lift weights? I can like how it's all the 7 sins, but it's all like one really mundane story of 2 guys watching TV. Next is Tales of the Zomoid, an interview with Ray Zone. And it's an interview by Dale Luciano. Always holds a fond place in my heart for introducing me to mini comics and what they called new wave comics at the time. In that great issue of Comics Journal, I believe it was 94, which was just this whole overview of mini comics. And I remember as a teenager just being like, what? You can do this? You can go to a copy shop and make things? And he was pretty much my inspiration. My very first fanzine I actually dedicated to Dale Luciano for inspiring me. So it's a nice little interview. Ray Zone is just a fascinating guy. He's a very interesting guy, interested in all the basically junk culture of America, 3D, hot rod art, comic books. And so he's just into all that stuff. And he talks about creating the Zomo art space. And here's some art from other Zomoids. And I wish they would have credited this. I don't know who this is. It looks kind of funny. Here's another cover. This one, I think it says Boole Jones? I can't read it. Probably a pen name, though. And then we have this back cover by, supposedly, by some character named, I think, Ice Mook. I can't really even read it. Feist Mook. This is called The Yama Yama Man Loves Him and Leave Him. And I'm going to tell you who it is. You'd never guess. This is Robert Williams. And he made this completely ridiculous, infantile, well, I should say adolescent, stupid comic. And that's why he didn't sign his name, I think. But it's pretty funny. It's just so stupid. This weird, the Yama Yama Man, you can kind of tell it's Robert Williams when you look closely at the Yama Yama Man. This is the kind of design only Robert Williams would make. And he comes to this woman's house and he says, very good titties, I'm gonna have to kill you. She says, you criminal, leave my house. And she says, listen, if I make a check for $1,000 and fix you a big dinner, will you go away? And she does, and then he kills her anyway with a frozen ham. So, just like vile, utter trash comics. Like something a 14-year-old would do in the back of the class to make his friends laugh. But I gotta say, I kind of like it in a perverse way. So there you go, guys. A very weird little anthology comic from 1989, Zomoid Illustories. I wish Ray Zone was still around to make more great stuff. He was always just putting out cool shit. And he died too young. But hope you guys like looking at this weird little comic. I don't know. These comics didn't seem to get much distribution. These Ray Zone comics, these Ray Zone productions. So I don't know. I've never heard about this anywhere else. It almost seems like I dreamt this comic. Maybe that's why I'm making this video today, to prove that it exists to everyone. And hope you enjoyed looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.